Welcome to the randInt podcast with Rafi and Chandra.
Welcome back to the randInt podcast with Rafi and Chandra. So, yay! We've got audience cheer too.
Oh, I didn't realize that we had a live audience. This is impressive.
Oh, we do. And today we actually have a guest interview with, and I'm going to totally butcher your surname, and I intentionally didn't ask, Eric Czuleger. Is that roughly?
Czuleger. Yeah, that's
Czuleger?
That was a heroic attempt. And
Welcome.
well done. Yeah. Everybody, just so you all know, it's Czuleger.
So there's an entire video on YouTube, I'm not sure if you know this, on how to pronounce it, and it suggests it's Czuleger.
You've got to be
You can look it up. I will link it in the bio. It is there. I looked it up before.
Because there aren't many people with my last name. So like one of these Czulegers out here must have been just fed up and was like, I've got to take to YouTube. I've got to inform the people. Well, you did a great job.
That is literally the only thing the video has, is multiple times it just says Czuleger. And I was like, honestly, must be it.
This is a Czuleger psyop. I don't trust this. You've downloaded some malicious code from that video.
Maybe that was that guy's way of just messing with all the other Czulegers.
And you know what? Which is like the most Czuleger thing to do. So I think I'm narrowing it down. I think I know which Czuleger did this, and I will find them.
So just for context, Eric was recommended by one of our previous guests, Alex Ellis. I believe you're related to his wife. Is that correct? I am.
And by marriage now related to him. So his wife is my cousin, and and I actually did their marriage ceremony. Like I was their officiant.
Wow, okay,
yeah,
fair enough. So for context for the rest of the listeners, this is like 10 minutes ago. We've just started chatting to Eric for the very first time. So given that, I just thought I would read out a bio I found of Eric just to give you a flavor of what this conversation is going to be like. Okay, so Eric Czuleger's fascination with travel, history, and politics began as a Peace Corps volunteer in Albania, where he is right now. After service, he completed his first circle of the globe. Returning to the US, he worked as a barista, yoga instructor, an intelligence analyst, journalist, and tech storyteller. Eric spent his year of statelessness while completing his master's in creative writing at Oxford University. He's lived, worked, and traveled through 47 countries and climbed 2 of the 7 summits. Wow, what a bio! That's another.
Thank you. And it was lovely to meet you guys. Smash like and subscribe, and use code Eric Czuleger for 20% off on BetterHelp.com. Glad I could help. Wow. Great episode.
Bam, straight into it.
So the thing is, we forget to plug our own show. So thank you for putting that.
Smash like and subscribe, everybody.
So that is quite a bio and quite a CV already. And I just thought for context, we should just go through your background and life up till this point in a rapid fire way, just to catch everyone up, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah. All right. I rarely go back to the very beginning because
born and raised.
Yeah. So there was a sea creature, and it started to get legs and hair, and then it's a process called evolution was happening because of amino acids. I grew up in Southern California.
Nice.
The beach cities in Southern California, in Los Angeles, and I was sort of indoorsy arts kid. Was on dance team all throughout high school. And
we were going to go even back. It's like in early school, were you the nerd, were you the rebel, were you the artsy kid? So obviously the artsy kid.
Artsy nerd. Definite indoor cat.
I think you're definitely in the randInt podcast as a home target home.
I could hear your thousands of listeners just like adjusting their glasses right now.
Yeah. So like, I think, well, I've only got meow. I don't have someone going yay as a second voice.
Somebody's like, oh, I bet he likes books too.
You've written a book. We're going to get to that in a little bit. I've just started reading it, actually.
Cool.
So
nice.
far, yeah, I'm about a third of the, probably not quite a third of the way in, but we'll get to that. So one of my little quick rapid fire questions was going to be, would you say there was anything unusual about your family or growing up? This is your sort of primary school years, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, so my mom's an author, which was totally normal to grow up with, but then you realize that not everybody has a mom who's an author. So writing was definitely a part of my life from a very early age, and I was always writing somehow. And my dad's a judge, so my mom writes mystery books. Yeah, I know, and it worked out for them too, because like she started writing mystery novels, and so it's just like, I remember going to my mom's office at one point and just I couldn't have been more than like 12, and it's like all these crime scene photos everywhere, and it's like, oh, this is research, and just books about guns and stuff. So it's good that it turned out this way for me, and I'm not locked up. I had two choices, man: become an author or the streets.
Well, are you going to write the book or be in the book is the question.
It's exactly right.
Or be judged by your dad.
I ask myself this every single day. So yeah, and I pursued arts. From there, I was in theater. I was performing a lot. So I did quite a bit of like acting in high school, and then went and studied that in university, where I started writing more seriously. So I was a playwright in university and wrote, I think, like seven plays during that period of time, which got some staging. I'm sure they're all like, flaming dumpster fires now that are deeply offensive to the morals of 2024. But I was 19 and I had
encapsulated history.
That's exactly right. Don't
worry, I'm sure ChatGPT has learned from it.
I was like, I got some stuff to say in the form of theater that's going to change the world.
So on that note, I was going to say, any pivotal moments from those teenage or early university, college years?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the bigger ones was I started self-producing. Like I wanted to produce some work pretty rapidly, just because it was I can't remember which election cycle it was. It was an election cycle. I think there was obviously, shockingly, there was unrest in the Middle East at that time. Back in the day, this is a long time ago.
Not this version. A few cycles ago.
Different, totally different times.
The stuff that's on daytime television on a rerun at the moment,
Exactly. Yeah, people don't remember this, but the Middle East used to be kind of geopolitically spicy. And so I, was wanting to sort of interact politically and use whatever skills that I had to sort of comment on what I felt was important at the time. And I was like, well, we could probably just like self-produce something. Like nobody's gonna stop us. And then me and my buddy, who was an actor in the show, were like, yeah, we could do that. And then we just sort of kept coming up with like a worse idea of how to do that. So it wasn't just like, oh, we'll invite the faculty and we're going to do. And then it was just like, no, we're going to break into the theater building at midnight on Halloween. And then we're going to sneak in an audience of 80 people to blow their minds with salacious material from the stage.
This sounds awesome. I would have come.
It was great. It was like invite only. So like,
I probably wouldn't have gotten invited, but oh well. I would have
don't worry.
Invited.
It's all your indoor cat theater kid audience members too. We didn't invite any jocks, man. So like,
and how did it go?
It was spectacular. Like it was, and it felt very like it was one of these first moments of just realizing that if you produce it yourself, if you do it yourself, if you just like take the step without asking anybody's permission, then you know, you get an enormous response for it, and you also open up a lot of new pathways, because I think more often than not, people are like, well, you know, I couldn't possibly do this thing, or, you know, they let their goals become just sort of extended daydreams that they have, because they don't think they'll actually ever do those things. But like, you know, if you do one neat thing, suddenly you want to do a lot more other, like, you know, you wonder what else you're kind of capable of. So yeah.
On that note, did that actually lead to anything that like doors opening, and like what were they for you?
Yeah, well, so that style of, I guess that production kind of led directly to the type of stuff that I work on now, in a really randInt way. randInt. Everybody smash like and subscribe.
Wow, we were just your segues and sliding in the promos. I love it.
Use
we gotta
code.
Take notes on how to do this.
Use code self-promotion at checkout for 20% off. Stamps.com.
Yeah. How many sponsors do you have? Like,
I thought these were sponsors. Given that you guys are a podcast, I assume these were your sponsors already.
Well, you know, we're aspirational, so we'll plug it now.
Yeah, who do you want to be sponsored by? All I really know is that you're going to get 20% at checkout.
Yeah, guaranteed.
VB beer. That's an Australian thing. Vegemite.
Yeah. Triple X.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel very bad as a Muslim now promoting alcohol.
Shit! Damn it!
But it's okay. That's from Chandra's side. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, that's my promotion. Woo.
Enter. Yeah. That's haram for me, but not for you. For 20% at checkout.
That gets you even 30%.
We have never had this many sponsors on this podcast before. This is awesome.
It's crazy.
Any of these companies, feel free to reach out. We're okay with taking your sponsorship money.
You know, randInt is great, but I think it's like 90% sponsorship at this point.
Wait, there's another way to do a podcast.
So, yeah, I mean, that production was one. It was I was realizing slowly that maybe theater wasn't exactly the thing that I was wanting to be working on all of the time. Because I mean, I love it as a form. I still love going and seeing plays, and I, you know, theater in general is pretty magical still. But it as a you know, an art form, it's fairly slow to produce, and you know, in terms of limiting the amount of people that can throw obstacles in your way, it's like it's got a lot. You know, you need to attach a director, and you need to workshop a play, and then, you know, by the time it hits the stage, it's a couple of years old at bare minimum. So I was sort of obsessed with this idea of like, well, how can I make stories a little bit more useful to people around me, and and relevant for things that I was doing. And so I after theater school, I went to the Peace Corps, the American Peace Corps, which for some of your listeners may know what it is. Many don't know what the Peace Corps is.
Can you explain it?
Yeah. No.
First rule of Peace Corps: you don't talk about Peace Corps.
Yeah. That's first rule. Yeah, you just have to guess, listeners.
Doves.
Yeah.
Doves are involved.
Yeah, it's just a lot of releasing doves into the world and giving hugs. So it was started in the 1960s by John F. Kennedy, and it's kind of like the opposite of the American Armed Forces, which is probably why most people haven't heard about the organization. So you basically volunteer to go to any one of over 120 different countries I think they operate in. and you just say, hey, I'm willing to go work in an emerging economy or a developing country under hardship conditions for 2.5 years, and at least during my time, it was like you didn't actually get to choose where you went. So they just, strapped you to a rocket and shot you out of a cannon, and you ended up in some village, and they're like, don't start any wars.
Not even a plane ticket.
Yeah, it's really they still use the military hardware. That's why we have the rocket system. It's very unnerving for the people on the ground.
Is that a bombing or is that new visitors? Hard to know.
New Peace Corps volunteer. What's up? Just climbing out of a steaming crater.
We're here to help. Don't worry. Trust me.
Can I just ask, like, going back a step? So you had what sounds like an amazing experience producing that play and releasing it, right?
Yeah.
How did you go from play to Peace Corps? Like, what was the jump there?
Well, I think that the a couple of things were true at the same time. Like, one, you leave theater school after 4 years of working very hard to be really good at like Shakespeare, and then you're like, oh no, nobody needs these skills. I need different skills, because very few people are like, quick, I need 2 contrasting monologues to save this man's life. I just didn't quite see that. And then my university, I think anybody who goes to university for the arts, like if you talk to musicians or dancers about this, it's like your time is so laser focused on being a nerd about that particular discipline. So you don't get to take much of a step outside of it. And I heard about people like doing study abroad programs and things like that. And I wanted to travel and learn another language and then, also develop some new skills. And it seemed like the Peace Corps was kind of like the quickest way to do all of those things pretty rapidly. And I also just thought it was kind of badass that you just, you have no idea where you're going to go, and they throw a dart at a map, and then you just end up in some country in some village for 2.5 years. I just thought that was really cool. So
was there like a friend or something that sort of prompted it as something to look into?
A friend of my dad's had done it back in the 1960s. Actually strange. So he did his Peace Corps service in Afghanistan, so he really bungled that one, because
it's not fixed yet.
Yeah, I mean, have you heard about any wars coming out of Albania? That's because of this guy. That's because of me right now. You're all welcome for my service. Friend. Yeah, I know.
Dad's friend has a lot to answer for.
He's like, I forgot my doves.
That's the problem.
Didn't I release enough?
This is like, your hug count is way down.
It was a peaceful rocket that I came in.
That was like the beginning of it. Yeah. So, but I thought the whole thing sounded like, I mean, hearing his peace stories, I thought that the whole thing sounded really cool. And he ended up working for the United Nations, and I was like, oh, that sounds neat. So yeah, I mean, I got sent to Albania and did my initial language training in a small town called Liberland. Shout out to Liberland. And they were like
10 for 10% off tourist codes.
Yeah, type in Liberland for 20% off your subscription to
the post office.
What's that? Those meal preps are the post office.
Oh, HelloFresh.
HelloFresh. There you go. Yeah. for halal food options for everybody.
Okay. So
then they were like, I did decently with the language, and so they sent me up north to a town which is in an area which is famous only because it's where the bad guys in Taken come from. So, like,
that's awesome.
if you've seen Taken, there's like a guy that is called Marco from Trapoya, who's like,
Trapoya, yeah.
Yeah. I lived in Trapoya. And
okay,
it is
little bookmark just here. So right now, Liam Neeson is filming a movie in a small country town called, I think it's Glenrowan, like an hour away out of Melbourne, where the entire town, it's like 4 streets, has been painted to look like Nepal. So the rotunda where everyone goes drinking is now a stupa with like a Buddha on it, and so on and so forth. Everything has gone from Australian beige to green and multicolors with the flags everywhere. So
that's so wild.
Random thing that's happening right now in Victoria,
and it's Liam Neeson connected too.
Yeah. And Liam Neeson's here.
we share this Liam Neeson connection through Taken.
And that's how we got you on the podcast.
Yeah. Shout out to Liam.
We called up Liam. Hey, who should we talk to? Is like, talk to Eric.
Yeah,
he was in Trapoya.
He's the guy. Well, and that particular show, like they did their research, because it is known as being a bit of an organized crime area in Albania, and it's a traditional area, so it's got a lot of the sort of eccentricities that exist in village Albania. So, it's still, because it's so traditional, it still operates on, partially on the
organized
Kanun.
crime?
I mean, depends on how you define it. It's
Depends which rules you define the crime under.
Yeah, so like there
Depends
are
doing
sort
the
of
scheduling and organizing.
I mean, isn't that all crime really is? Every mafia boss just has Slack now. It's like,
oh, Chandra, there you go, new tool for your startup.
yeah.
Is your crime disorganized? Would you like to organize it better? Are you
Slack.
ready to move up on the rings? Not just
And
Slack,
for all our
crack
listeners,
for
20%
organized
off
crime.
the promo code.
There you go. Yeah,
So-
like I'm sure you have a lot of organized crime listeners too, so that's probably helpful for them.
That's our
It
secondary
is really the
market,
audience
yes.
we're trying to
It's-
foster.
Yeah, I mean, they're like, God, we just need a project manager who knows about how to move bricks of cocaine. Does anybody know a great project manager?
We've gone from randInt to organized crime, like PG to R18 in one episode. This is awesome.
Is this a waterfall or agile methodology for stepping on this heroin?
So, can I just, why did the Peace Corps send you to get taken, so to speak?
I thought you were going to say, accept me. Literally, my application just says I studied theater. So because and I should say, the area is it's known for that. It certainly had a violent past. And Albania in general, even though there are criminal elements of like the mafia that exist around. That's mostly throughout like Western Europe. The country itself is probably one of the safest countries that you can exist in. And that area, so Trapoya, Byram, Surrey, which was the name of my town.
Eric,
I got sent up. Was that?
Oh,
hello.
Oh, sorry, it just dropped out for a second for me, but yeah. Anyway, welcome back.
Hey, so yeah, so my town, Byram, Surrey, they sent me up there because they were opening a new site. So they were like opening it as like a new area for Peace Corps volunteers to be working in. And I did decently with the language in my like first 3 months, and the way
Was that like a full immersion kind of thing? Or
yeah,
did you
it's
have
like
a lot of English?
Yeah, my English was pretty good by the time I got there. But the Albanian the Albanian was really difficult because I didn't speak any of that.
Does make it tricky.
They like make you. I mean, they don't. There's no guns to your head, but like you've got like 5 hours a day or so of intensive language training, and you're living with an Albanian family, and yeah, you're just trying to make it happen. But they speak a different dialect up in Trapoya, that's quite, and so they're like, oh, like you learned this one, okay, so go up and learn that one again. And it's like, even oftentimes Albanians can't quite understand each other from the various areas. So that's why they sent me and a couple of my colleagues. So we had one person working in health and one person working in like sort of community development, and I was an English teacher. So I went and, you know, taught Albanian teenagers in like a high school setting for a year, and then I worked on developing like a mobile library for like the far flung villages. Yeah.
Were you teaching them English or the other Albanian dialect? That would be somewhat amusing.
Guys, you don't speak Albanian well enough.
Rocket came in to...
Man, Americans are condescending. He left a crater in my field, immediately got out and started criticizing my Albanian in English and demanding an apartment to stay in.
Yeah, this is why we don't send Chandra on these trips.
Yeah.
I speak the international language of just talk a bit louder and enunciate English.
As an American, I already do that, and actually, you know, given that I've been living abroad for so long, like I can now hear why people say Americans talk so loudly, because we do. And because I can hear them from miles away now, and I'm like, no, have I been doing this the whole time? And then my Albanian friend is like, stop yelling, Eric.
You're still doing it.
So how was your experience? Like, this is 2.5 years, did you say, that you're in Albania the first time around?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very difficult, but you know, achievable. Because you know, it is a very very small.
Kidnapped?
Not that this time.
No, we're going for the movie edition. This is going to be a Netflix show for sure at some point.
The kidnapping attempt started later in life, but
so...
but yeah, we ended up getting there, so don't worry. No, it was very cool. Like it was super difficult because the area is you know, it's really impoverished, and you know, the high school that I was teaching at, no electricity. Oftentimes most of the windows were broken out. We had like a wood burning stove in each of the rooms, and obviously I'm like going in as a weird foreigner to a room full of like very tall and strong Albanian teenagers, and being like, hey guys, I'm the cool teacher who barely speaks your language. I like turn the chair around and sit on it backwards so they know that I'm cool like them.
I'm like you.
Just carry a skateboard around the whole time, even though none of them have ever touched a skateboard.
It's like, what's that?
Just backwards hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that, yeah, I mean, you know, it was like 8 hours a day of being brutalized by my students, and trying to, you know, teach them about present tense, or you know, whatever English thing that we were working on.
Had you been a teacher before this, or was this like first time just cheating? Okay,
yeah,
so there was like no teaching sort of experience. You're like, here, you've kind of picked up another language, go somewhere else and teach English in a different dialect of this new language.
Yeah,
that's a pretty hard gig.
One of the things that I've noticed throughout my entire career, let's put some you know, air quotes around that, is that you can just do stuff and very few people ask questions. Like, it's like, can you be a high school teacher? Sure. There's your classroom.
Point number one. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Let's do this.
Well, it's like the rule of the clipboard. You can pretty much walk in anywhere you want with a high-vis vest and a clipboard. I actually, I was going into a new work environment recently, and I wanted to get some respect around here, so I bought a clipboard specifically before I went to that thing for exactly this purpose. No.
Because
is it still a clipboard or is it an iPad now? Who knows?
see, I actually think that like clipboard gives you a lot more respect than I would respect a person with a clipboard more than an iPad personally.
Well, you can
you
make the
can't
clicking
play
noise as
dedicated to the
well.
cause.
Yeah, you can't play Angry Birds on a clipboard. Like you're there to work.
That's true. That's true. So, any specific highlights from your that time in Albania?
Oh man.
If you had to pick just one.
Well, this kind of related to that theater production that we did. So during that time, I was really interested in like one, how can I kind of like use stories to actually sort of make some real world impact, and like because surely there must be a way to do that. These are interesting I was experiencing some really fascinating stuff, and I also knew that there were issues on the ground to solve. So I started writing plays that were almost like journalism. We called it a live theater blog. And so this was back in 2011 when we started doing this. And so we were using one of the very first streaming platforms. And so I would write basically a blog that was supposed to be performed live back at a theater that I worked with in Hollywood. And my buddy acted in it, and he and my other friend directed it. And then we sold tickets to it, and then the money from that ended up coming back overseas to Albania, where I was able to help start a mobile library that served the villages. Yeah, so it was like,
like a proper social enterprise, like transnational. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool.
Through theater, yeah. So we did. I think.
We definitely need a cheer for that.
That's right. Woo!
So basically, you had the original Patreon supporting you.
Yeah, except it was just like a bunch of people who are being dragged to the theater to listen to stories about rural Albania. I can only imagine what those conversations. Huh?
It would be interesting, right? Like, as I haven't been to rural Albania, but when you sell it the right way, going set in the village where Taken was first filmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll come.
It was cool because we did it like semi-monthly too. So there was like, because of the like velocity of how much we had to produce, it was like I was always on the lookout for like whatever that story was. And sometimes it was my experience, sometimes it was history, sometimes it was somebody else's story. But I realized that, like, by kind of one, not everybody knows every story, and just by sitting in the right place and asking the right question, you kind of get access to this world that you didn't really even know was there, which was a really powerful experience. And then on top of that, like, yeah, we turned some monologues into some books for a mobile library, and like my final year was just kind of puttering around in this van full of books to give to kids in rural villages. So that was super cool. And then that kind of turned me into a journalist, which I was like, after a while, I was just like, well, I want to do more stuff like this. I want to travel, and I want to, find stories that maybe people aren't necessarily the most comfortable going and getting, or the most comfortable sort of trying to learn about the background of, because I know how, when I think about how I started approaching history, or I started approaching culture, or writing about any of these really difficult topics, I was like, there are so many dumb questions that I want to ask, but I feel very I feel very uncomfortable asking them. So I'm like, that must be the same case with a lot of other people. And like, the ticket to understanding is just like asking a bunch of dumb questions.
Well, I think like you basically are foreshadowing the rise of the Eli 5, like explaining like I'm 5 thing, like on Reddit, right? Like there are people who just want to know. They're just gonna put it out there that it's like, just pretend I'm dumb, because I mean, every time I've asked that question, explain it like I have had zero idea. So it sounds like this was just like the way to get permission to do that. in a way for a random topic. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, like I was so glad that it just so happened that the thing that I liked to do personally and now professionally is show up to places that I don't know much about and start asking some questions and building relationships with people like in those areas, which is
so
like
just that little hard right here. So if the bio is correct, then you return to the US and work as a barista and yoga instructor and then intelligence analyst. Okay, intelligence analyst, you can kind of make that. But what about the first two? What happened?
Oh man, well, so yet again, I was sort of I got back from some experience. So previously it was theater school, now Peace Corps, and then I realized I still don't have many useful skills. So I was like, I mean, I can speak conversational Albanian.
I can start mobile libraries. You can also transnational play service.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's got to be a lot in there that you can actually use. Like,
nobody was buying what I was selling, basically. So, I got home.
It sounds like you were somebody who was based in Albania, great at getting money across borders, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So we don't need to ask any other questions about that. So anyway, moving on.
You just needed a new logo. You just need a
Being
new logo. That's all.
Barista. No, that was just kind of like the first job that I got when I came back. I was a local journalist before, and I was trying to find writing gigs, and it just wasn't really working out. And so I was making coffee, and I actually ended up working. I don't think this made it in the bio, but I ended up working for a couple of years as a behavioral therapist for kids with autism, because there was a sort of pay to train program in the area. So it was like, we'll train you to help work with kids with autism. So I did that for about like 2.5 years.
What gave you the idea? Is there something that prompted that one as well, or was that from that teaching perspective? Or
teaching too.
Available?
Yeah. Needed a job that sounded, if nothing else, it sounded useful, and it sounded like a good personal experience, which it was. But after a couple of years of doing that work, I was like, unless I'm gonna advance to higher levels and get advanced degrees in this field, then I've kind of like tapped out. Like, great experience, but I kind of need to go back to doing what I was doing. And I was writing, but I was writing, I wrote a couple of fiction books. So my first 2 books were written during that time.
This is the Immortal LA and
yeah.
Yep.
That's when I was just like, I could be fucking edgy like Neil Gaiman. And I still think that.
Well, I mean, I've only read the blurbs of that because I was like, the one, like, I was like, okay, I got to choose a book. Which one do I go for? And I went for your latest one, unless there's been another one since then.
No.
Yeah,
just that one.
But because this is going to lead us down another rabbit hole, I just wanted to ask intelligence analysts, like, your book, You Are Not Here, begins with some fairly graphic, edgy places.
Which are super relevant right now. I'm like, those rascals.
I was gonna say it.
Yeah,
it just seems like the book. Like, I'm reading your book, which, I mean, like, the basic question, which you start off in the first chapter, is like asking the question, what is a country? And I think, especially with everything going on in the Middle East, I was like, this just feels so relevant and of the time, even though it was written before, because like it's a perspective of someone who's been literally in that area, asking the question that is currently driving half these conflicts. But
no, it's weird. It's weird to see a lot of these countries in the news now, because previously I think some of the areas a lot of people hadn't heard about. But I mean, in the book, and I'll give like a little background of the book. So like, the book was, I decided to spend a year living in only countries that are unrecognized as countries in the world. So that took me from being an English teacher in Iraqi Kurdistan during their referendum on independence, to being in Kosovo for their 10-year anniversary of independence. I would have stayed in Kurdistan the whole time, but I got kicked out of Turkey and subsequently banned from Turkey. So I couldn't travel back to northern Iraq because Baghdad had shut down the airspace at the time. So I was like, well, there goes my shirts in northern Iraq, and I guess I'll just have to figure it out
I'm up
elsewhere.
to that part in the book at the moment
where
you're on the road, and I was like, wow, yeah, that's yeah, I loved your little pointers of how to figure out if things are safe. Call random people, ask your T guy if it's safe, and then just do it anyway.
Basically, yeah. That's the as far as like operational security in the Middle East. It's like you have to talk to at least 3 people from different backgrounds, and then just ask your grocer, because your grocer is actually the person who knows everything. Shout out to Hassan.
Hassan, yay, go Hassan, yay.
He knows where he is. So,
but how did you?
He did, yeah.
How did you actually become an intelligence analyst from Barista?
Okay, so this is super random.
Yoga instructor.
Yeah. This is super
it was the yoga
random.
link.
No, I wish. That would have been way cool. That sounds like a way sexier way to become an intelligence analyst. And so I should say that so I was working for a geopolitical forecasting company. This wasn't actually for the armed forces. Geopolitical forecasting?
Yeah, what is that? It's like the weather,
so predict where countries are going to be physically?
Where it's like Micronesia is going to be way over here for some reason.
Micronesia is going to get big. There's going to be Meganesia soon.
Do you also draw on maps with a Sharpie and just go like, it's over there?
When I first started so I'll answer what those companies are. So there are a lot of different companies that are basically like looking at geopolitics, and I think there's a couple that I can think of off the top of my head. Stratfor is one of them. RANE, RANE. So they have their companies that are doing geopolitical analysis, and they usually have a publishing wing along with it. So they're publishing some of their findings about what specifically is going to go on or perhaps might happen in a particular area. And they're also sometimes doing work for private industry. So like, let's say you want to start, I don't know, a oil refinery in Turkmenistan. You probably couldn't, but because, Turkmenbashi,
I saw it on TikTok, seemed like a good idea.
You got to get it on the Turkmen natural gas. That's where it's really at.
Just tell Andy Forrest here. I'm sure he'll figure out a way to get a refinery over there.
You know what? I know a guy. I know a Turkmen guy. But you'll basically like hire a super nerd about that country, an intelligence analyst, to like look at the open source intelligence that's coming out of that area. So it's nothing that's like classified or anything like that. Usually it's just like on the ground information that you're taking from various sources and saying, here's my assessment of what the the safety of the area. Is there going to be any sort of political unrest? Is there going to be economic problems that might affect your business, that kind of thing? But mostly I was publishing assessments of things that were going on in the Middle East. And specifically the Levantine area. So I wrote a couple pieces about the Islamic State at the time and the Kurdish independence movement in northern Iraq. So I was pretty well primed for this, but yeah, the way that I ended up getting this job, and again, it's it sounds very like shadowy and stuff, but it was mostly like advanced newsreader journalist job. but my so I was I was working as a summer camp counselor in Boston. We're gonna get there, I promise.
I just love the jumps. Like, man, like, you know, in terms of career variety, we're like both kind of went to uni, went to medical school, became doctors. And you're like,
I went
jump,
from
jump,
Melbourne
jump,
to
jump,
Perth.
jump.
That was a big jump.
This puts Super Mario to shame. You realize, right? Like, you know, you're just like.
Well, Chandra, there's a reason you have a boat and I don't. It's because I was, while you were in medical school, I was a summer camp counselor, and I was like, "Don't run."
But you're the one in Albania, not me.
That's right. Yeah, come on over anytime. So this was sort of my transition period between like I didn't really want to work in early childhood education anymore. I wanted to be abroad again, and I wanted to be writing nonfiction stuff that was useful and interesting. And I started to become more interested in the Middle East, reading a lot more about geopolitics and history at that time. And I was freelancing a couple of articles here and there. So I wanted to start writing about conflict in the area, and from what I understood of different people who were doing exactly that, like you kind of just have to go and figure it out. And I was like, okay, sweet. I've never had a problem buying a random plane ticket before, so I had a plane ticket to Turkey, and then I sort of had a trip planned out. I was going to go down to a place called Gaziantep, which is on the Syrian border. And I didn't really want to cover day-to-day conflict. I was more interested in sort of doing what I did in Albania, which is just like, you know, what are the other everyday lives on that are just parallel to conflict that's going on. And I thought that was a pretty neat thing to put together. And maybe it was going to be a book. Maybe it was just going to be journalism. Don't know. And then the coup happened, the Turkish coup. You know, I was there, you know, getting the like headphones ready for all of my camp counselors to come in, and like, you know, making sure that the slide was put out and the inflatables were inflated. And I had like, you know, one earphone in, and I was listening to like the news from the Turkish coup, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, tie your shoes and don't run. And then I was back to listening to about the Turkish coup, and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I have a ticket to Istanbul, and maybe this is the right time to go. It's the wrong time to go. And meanwhile, my dad had started like basically become pen pals with this geopolitical forecaster guy. And he was like, oh, well, you should see what he thinks. I talked to him about you going to Turkey now, and he thinks it's a terrible idea. And I was like, oh, well, I'll email him. And so I emailed this guy, and I was like, hey, I hear you think this is a terrible idea. So if it is a terrible idea, like, what should I do instead? Like, what if I want to write about this area and learn about this area? And so he wrote me back like the longest email ever, and it was basically about how I was going to get kidnapped and killed in Turkey. And I was like, oh, that's 3 pages of... Okay, if you refer back to my first email, you'll see that I said, I understand you think it's a bad idea, but what should I do if I want to write about this area?
Did you tell them that you've been to Trapoya already? It's like, I know the guys who are going to do the kidnapping. I had to have coffee with them.
It's my buddy Arben.
What was the reply?
The reply was like, oh, I've gone back and looked at your previous email. And I was like, that's right. And he was like, okay, well, I tell you what, why don't you go to Beirut and I'll coach you? And I was like, okay, great. I don't know what that means. I've never met you. But an old man on the internet told me that I should go to Beirut, so I guess I'm buying a plane ticket. And I did.
Well, I mean, why not? What could go wrong?
And so I, you know, because all my plans were sort of canceled in Turkey, so I had like a month, and I was sort of getting ready to go to start school in the UK which is part-time. So I was always researching somewhere, but I had to go back to the UK briefly. So I had like a month in Beirut to be, air quotes coached. Again, all of this sounds a lot shadier than it is. Like let's assume ignorance more than malice here. Because basically I was like, okay, I'm here, emailing, and he's like, okay, great, meet this person. And I was like, great, sounds good. An old man on the internet told me to meet a person, so I guess I'm just gonna go get in this car.
Do they have air conditioning? That's the main question.
So it had air conditioning, but there were no internal handles on the door, and
you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, I got in, and I was like, oh, actually, it wasn't immediate. It was like 5 minutes of driving, and like we're going to the outside of Beirut at this point, and I'm like, oh, I don't recognize any of these streets because we're not in Beirut anymore. And then I was like, there's no handles on the inside of this car, and then I was like, this might have been an error. I was
emailing me about.
I hope this was the right car.
This is called learn from experience.
I mean, it may be. It could have been the kind of thing where like this dude was just like, oh man, I gotta kidnap something. Just leave your car open, and then an American will just wander in.
Maybe it was just like your dad's way of like orchestrating a really scary scenario to just take you out of going.
What did we learn? Yeah, no, but it was the right. Fortunately, it was the right car, and so like
you are not missing any organs, right? Just
no,
we can
totally intact. They haven't got me yet, man. So yeah, they like he sort of delivered me to like this random office in a place called Juné outside of Beirut, and he was there's just like a guy in the office, and he was like, oh you're from the guy, and I was like, yep, that's who I'm from. And so he's like, have a seat, and I was like, okay, cool. And so I sat down, and I had like my little journalist notebook, and he started telling me about like the Islamic State for like about 3 hours, and then I was like, and he's like, do you have enough? And I'm like, yep, I guess I do. And he's like, great, my driver will take you back. And I was like, okay. And so got dropped off at my hostel, and I was like, that was weird. And
but you're alive. That's positive.
Well, it kept happening. So like somebody was just like, you need to go meet with this political scientist at the American University of Beirut. So like I'd go up there.
Who was making all these connections, and do you know why? I'm just curious.
Yeah, it was so it was the guy who would eventually become my boss. And a lot of his sort of philosophy is you've got to sort of be on the ground in these areas. You've got to talk directly with people who are studying particular things, so that like you have an on the ground knowledge, because it's like the difference between what you can read in books and the difference between what somebody who's had direct experience with the ins and outs of whatever the political environment is night and day. They're not even comparable. So going and talking to somebody who was a counterterrorism expert in Lebanon is a very, very different thing than somebody who's talking, working at like, I don't know, some think tank in Washington, D.C., and has read a lot of really great historical texts about that area. It's a totally different thing. So,
just to clarify, this is before you became this is how you became an intelligence analyst. So you're not there yet. So
no.
I was
just
a side project that just happened to happen because you mentioned you were going to go to the Middle East, and Turkey had the coup, and your dad was like, "Hey, random guy on the internet, you should follow what he says."
Were you working for this guy, or was there a reason that he was, like it sounds like he's set you up with some pretty cool spots.
Oh, it was super cool. Yeah, no, it was super interesting. I mean, he's the guy who I ended up working with, and then so I did my like month of just talking with random shadowy figures in Beirut. And I was like, that was neat. And then I went back to Albania, and I was teaching yoga. And And so that was,
Love it.
yeah.
I just feel like the take-home lesson, Mark II, for this podcast is if there's random people in a van offering you candy, take the candy.
Go! You're going to get a great story out of it.
Plus, could be good candy.
Yeah, I mean, that's... I was offered no candy.
Just don't look up like shady Eric Tales at onlyfans.com. We don't talk about that.
Actually, please do. I need the subs. Please look up shady Eric Tales. It is less stories about travel than you might think. So I was, I was teaching yoga in Albania shortly after all of this, and I had started, writing about and writing and publishing about stuff that was going on in the area, about the Syrian civil war at the time. Nothing super groundbreaking, but I really enjoyed learning about the area, and of course, like being on the ground was really cool. So I wrote to the guy and I was like, hey, I liked doing that. That was neat. What do I do now? Like, how do we make this thing keep going? And so he was like, okay, well, I'll train you to be an analyst. And I was like, cool. And also I needed a job. So great. Like this all works. As I really, I was really not financially secure due to the fact that I was just spending all my money on plane tickets to the Middle East.
They couldn't have been super expensive though, given all the things going on. So did they
still
have
hard to get
special?
There from Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's true.
So I just air carriers taking you from
exactly
to Beirut.
You can go fly in coup class, like fly into Turkey because no one else wants to.
Yeah, especially at that time. But I mean, I can't fly through Turkey anymore. I can't even touch their airport.
Wow, we're gonna have to get to that.
Yeah. The Turks don't like me.
No.
So anyway, he was like, yeah, well, I'll train you, and I was like, okay. And then I got an email and it was like, you're gonna come in and be a part of the training program. I was like, cool. And the role is like intelligence analyst, and I saw that title for the first time. I was like, oh no way.
Sounds sick.
Immediately was just like, I gotta tell everybody I know.
Excuse me, gotta go get my black suit.
Yeah, I've gotta when do I get my Splinter Cell night vision goggles and neoprene
watch first, you know.
I'm just always wearing a neoprene suit and just constantly in the shadows learning always about World War One. Yeah, exactly.
You gotta be like Solid Snake.
The reason I didn't make it as an intelligence analyst was specifically because of that. They were like, Eric's never in the office, but I was just in a box sneaking around.
Writing a book about them.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate that. Turns out.
And if youngins didn't get that, that's a Metal Gear Solid reference.
I was going to say, yeah. Metal Gear Solid was a video game of the PS1 operating system. Basically a cave painting at this point. But yeah, it was
last as a
Oh yeah, so I think 4 months altogether.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
but it
wasn't
you were really, really excited about the job.
And then they liquidated most of the company, and so I was trained with I did a month of training out there in Texas, and it was me and 3 other people. No, me and 4 other people, and I think only one of them ended up continuing on, and he continued on working there for a couple of years. And the rest of us were just left with a head full of knowledge about terrorism and missiles. And it's well, what do I do now? I can speak conversational Albanian, and I know a lot about the Sykes-Picot Treaty.
I don't know. It sounds like those people from Trapoya need that knowledge now.
Guys, I'm back.
There's some arbitrage.
Who wants to learn about various air-to-air missiles?
I think they do. They do.
Eric just won't leave. So
is this
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, was it mainly like a company sort of restructuring thing that happened, or they were downsizing, or is that
basically? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So they like the company expanded quite a bit in the time that I was there, and we did. I mean, the training was it was a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, because they're like, yeah, you're coming out for training, and I was like, oh, that'll be an interesting like week or so, and then it was like a full month that I was out, and like in a suburban home living with these people who I had never met. Now all of them good buddies, because we were going through the geopolitical fire together. The best thing you can do in the world, though, is play Settlers of Catan with some geopolitical nerds.
Settlers of Catan board game. Awesome.
It ends in a standoff. To quote war games, the only way to win is not to play.
Redraw the board, or
that's right. Needless to say, not all of us made it. But yeah, so like we're there just sort of cramming information about how to do research, how to look at various areas of the world, how to write about these areas of the world. So like my area, and I remember just being up till like 3:00 in the morning at one point, writing about Belarus and trying to find out more information about like the energy infrastructure of Belarus, because oftentimes like with geopolitics, you're asking the question like not like, can a country or a leader or somebody do something, but like, do they have to? Are they being forced to do something? So like, what's the geopolitical imperative of one country, and then also like, what's stopping them?
Like, what would an example be, if you wouldn't mind? Because that's
sure.
As someone who's not in the field, like, what would a question like that look like?
Yeah, so let's say, I mean, to be pretty prescient for right now, right? There's the conflict that's going on in the Red Sea, and that's the geopolitical imperative of the United States is to basically ensure free trade under American protection over the ocean. And that's been the case since the Bretton Woods agreement, which was the sort of like economic restructuring post, I think it was World War II. So like the reason that that's a really big deal is because the US has this imperative to ensure that there is like constant global trade that is quote unquote safe for everybody that we deem that to be safe for, right? And so that's how you can sort of look at certain areas of the world and do a little bit of not very hard guessing about like what will be important and what won't be important. So it's like, if suddenly you're making a choke point through which like a significant percentage of the goods that are traded globally are unable to safely get through, well, you're probably going to invite some kind of response from whoever the protector of that area is, just due to the fact of how we ended World War II. The United States elected itself the police of the seas. And so, yeah, that's our imperative. And every other country has imperatives too that they have to manage, imperatives and constraints. So while the U.S. has an imperative to maintain the security of free trade on the oceans and the increase of globalization, it also is constrained by the fact that it has a reduced tax base because the middle class has sort of gone the way of the dodo, and because there's a lot of internal conflict in the U.S. So because of that, it's constraining the ability to act as a securing force. And so when you know the sort of like constraints and imperatives of whatever country you're looking at, then you can make some pretty good guesses about what might happen next. Of course, there are always like these black swan moments. But people have been talking about Russian entrance into Ukraine for many, many years. Obviously, 2014 was when it became a hot war again. But to see an actual invasion is something that people had predicted as well.
They had predicted.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because part of. I mean, at least I'm not an expert in the area. I'm actually, I think the only expertise that I could actually claim is unrecognized nations. But part of what why Ukraine was so important for the former Soviet Union was because it was the breadbasket, right? Russia is a petrostate that makes a great deal of money through minerals and through oil. But that's great when it's great, and it's a liability when it's not. So in order to project power externally and to also protect yourself internally, you need to have a diversified economy, and having foodstuffs is a really good way of doing that. So there's the layer of post-Soviet nationalism that's on it, this has always been Russia, let's take this back. But then there's also just the sort of hard facts of what resources a nation needs to continue functioning and to keep throwing its weight around in a globalized world.
Wow. I mean, thank you very much for explaining all that. I mean, it's also I was just sitting there going, what a random episode. We started off Albania, yoga instructor. Now it's here's actually the geopolitical basis of what Ukraine and Russia are doing and what's happening in the Red Sea. I was not expecting it during this episode.
Yeah, normally I normally I don't comment on these active conflicts at the moment, but it is really, really interesting, and it's super telling because it's kind of the same thing that I was watching play out while I was traveling with my book, which is just you have when I think about nation states, the nation is the sort of story that's hovering above the land. The way that I think that the way I think about it now is that you can destroy a state, but you can never destroy a nation, because so long as there's a couple of people who remember that nation, then that nation still exists. It exists not on land and not in infrastructure. It's sort of shared in the hearts of the people in a certain respect. If America sinks into the ocean tomorrow, the landmass that the United States is, I would probably still call myself an American. I wouldn't call myself a Californian. Also, that sunk, with this thought experiment, that sunk too. But that national story is still in my mind. So the state infrastructure is one thing, and then the national infrastructure is another thing. The national infrastructure has more to do with one person's personal identity or one person's understanding of their own identity and how that plugs into the larger world.
You were talking before about a nationless state.
Yeah, so you can it's an interesting because I've been calling them stateless nations for a while.
Wrong way around.
And other way around. But so it started when I was researching the Kurds a lot. And so the Kurds are the largest stateless nation in the world. There are about 35 million Kurdish people.
Whoa, okay.
In the world, I want to say. So I'm trying to think if this Australia is in the world. Actually, there's quite a few in Australia.
Right. No, that's our entire population, 35 million.
Is it?
20.
Yeah.
Or less than. Yeah. I think we're 32. Yeah.
You guys are all Kurdish?
That's where they went.
They found a continent and they settled there. They haven't.
That's a grave misunderstanding of Kurdistan. All of my research did not point me to Australia. That's crazy.
You're holding the map upside down, as you probably
yeah, exactly. When I was a failing intelligence analyst trainee, I was sort of introspecting as to like why I didn't like writing about this stuff, and like why I didn't particularly enjoy the work, because I felt like, you know, it was satisfying my intellectual curiosity about history, about culture, about geography, about all of these things. But the actual day-to-day job is watching warfare and being a war nerd, and trying to be as dispassionate as possible about those things. And it's like, I mean, I like people, and I don't like, you know, talking every day about people blowing up. It just like, and it makes you a huge bummer to talk to at a bar, because you're just like, these missiles, just like,
do you want to know about surface to air missiles? No, like, why not?
These missiles are moving through the Kazakh desert. They're Iskanders. Yeah, so it's like nobody wants to be next to that guy at a bar. So I was like, you know, well, what's actually, you know, what one of these things is actually exciting to me and like interesting to me. And since I had spent so much time looking at the Kurdish region, and they were preparing for their referendum on independence, I was like, wow, that's actually super, super interesting. And, you know, if I was able to go there, I could literally be in a country on the day that it gets made. And like, wouldn't that be cool? It's like, you know, that
is
like,
pretty cool.
Right? And it's like
yeah.
You talking about Kurdistan? Yep, I was there. Like, first day, day one.
Right in the start.
Yeah.
Did they give you like an honorary passport because you were there?
Probably.
Like, you know?
NFTs. So I and then I was just like, well, I mean, I don't need to be an intelligence analyst to do this. I don't even need to be a journalist to do this. I can figure out a way to get to that country and to experience that and write about it. And so, since I had a background in teaching, I would just like Googled jobs in Erbil in Iraqi Kurdistan, and then like within 3 weeks, I had I had a ticket to Erbil and an apartment there, because you know I've taught you know classrooms before, so it was fairly easy to get over.
English before.
I have, yeah, and I was teaching English and homeroom to 3rd and 4th grade kids in Iraqi Kurdistan. But yeah, that seemed a lot more exciting, because it was like, this was more of a story about like the world coming together in different ways rather than the world tearing itself apart. And also there's like some pretty fascinating layers of irony in that area, that particularly that you know the area of northern Iraq, because it's like within, I guess, from 2014 to when I went there in 2016, the Islamic State was, you know, doing its best to enforce a land-based country on the area. Meanwhile, the Kurds are fighting for their own sovereignty and state-based recognition. And at one point, there you have Kurdish fighters who are from an unrecognized country fighting with the Islamic State, ostensibly an unrecognized country. And you have like two ways that people are battling for recognition in the world. Like, one is through democratic processes, and the other is through just like absolute brute strength. And frankly, like the exception to the rule rather than the rule itself is like, more often than not, countries are made through brute strength rather than democratic processes. And as a sort of like added layer of irony too, because whenever history isn't being like totally heartbreaking and horrifying, it's ironic and goofy. Like the presumably the historical foundation of what they say, where they say the Tower of Babel was, is in that desert. It's in the Nineveh plain. So it's like the allegory of statehood is in between these two stateless forces. They're both like fighting for the same land, and it's like, like what are we all doing? Can't we all just go home? What's happening?
Well, I mean, no, I mean, it just seems like, you know, I say this a lot about current day, which is it just feels like if you were to fast forward 100 years or something, right? You would be reading history books about this point in history right now. Like, you know, growing up, I was like, oh, you know, moon landing, I kind of just missed that and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Those were like historic times. Like Berlin Wall, yeah, I was a bit too young to fully understand it, but that was historic, right? But it was kind of like isolated, kind of country-based or nation-based events. Like right now just feels like there is history that's like capital H, like the entire world is watching, is somehow involved or is somehow responding, and the responses are global, right?
And
it seems like this is kind of like the beginning, like, you know, in a way, like these are
I think you're right.
Of things.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, I think that like, and I, you know, to sort of like drill down on what you may mean by like feeling history happen, right? Is I think that feeling of history actually happening occurs when an event, you know, detonates somewhere in the world, and it's not just that area that's affected, it's everywhere, right? I remember going to the Middle East for the first time, and as I started learning about it, I was like, well, the Middle East as an idea is certainly not a homogenous space. There is so much diversity in every Middle Eastern country that we know about it. However, there are so many important connections that exist within the region writ large that when something happens in one part of it, let's say something happens in Lebanon, then Iran is also activated. Then something is also going on in northern Iraq. Something is also going on, you know. But now it seems like that is the entire world, where we're feeling the interconnectedness that globalization has allowed us.
Like, you know, the world where this is the most obvious route in terms of connecting two separate spheres of the world, and it just happens to be the center, which always becomes the hotspot, I suppose, in a way.
Yeah, well, and it's, I mean, I think that one of the like, we're now so much more like, I think people oftentimes look at the sort of like godlike power that technology gives us, and we're committing what I call the man on the moon fallacy, which is assuming that because we have the same amount of power in every other domain, even though we're using technology in a disconnected way. So it's like there's this old cliche of like, we can put a man on the moon, but we can't stop homelessness or whatever. It's like, well, those are two very different things. Like, what? How in God's name would you think those are the same? Like, but
well, I mean, you put the homeless people on the moon, right? That's the clearly obvious way to use that.
Hit the cheers button. Hit the cheers button. You just solved homelessness. You just did it. There you go. Nice.
I thought you were going to get the cat button, but anyway.
So I think that, like, you know, we people rarely think about the hard facts of geography and of demography when they're like, yeah, but like I can talk to my friend and send money across borders and do X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, but there are some hard facts that still exist in the world. It's like, you know, we have a globalized system, which means that it becomes more brittle as value is able to be traded internationally. Now that also means that we're all dependent on one another. Like, I think I was reading somewhere that like the average pair of jeans is constructed on like 4 continents.
There's I think there's a book called like One Yellow Pencil or something, which traces
the
paperclip.
The paperclip one.
No, the paperclip is pencil trading. Like how there's
that's right. Yeah,
is
yeah.
About, the red paperclip is like how you trade up. It's like one pencil or something, and it's about how no one in the world knows how to make a pencil because it goes through so many steps and processes, from the minerals to the wood to the paint to every other step to how it gets packaged and ends up there. It essentially does like a round the world trip, and that's kind of like the story of globalization in a way, right?
Yeah.
Just getting back.
Yeah, go ahead. Go.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, just to bring it back to you go on this trip. Was the book always the plan?
Yeah. It was. It was certainly the plan. And I think it was both the plan and it was also kind of my passport into these areas, because if you just show up and you're like, I just want to see what's going on, people are a little bit frostier. But if you're like, I'm working on my master's dissertation from Oxford, they're like, well, I'll answer your questions. Yeah. And actually that's kind of what ended up getting me access to Liberland down the line. So I was the election, or the referendum, was about to happen in Erbil, and I was I was a third grade teacher, so I didn't have journalistic credentials. I didn't have access to anything. So I was like, okay, well, I've got to figure out a way to get better access to these events and things that are going on in the city. And so I just rolled up to the International Hotel in the area and was like, I'll just wait until somebody speaks English and I'll find a journalist and make friends with them. And then
can I just say, I love your book for the very fact that it reads like you're doing a travel vlog, but with a bit of like a gotcha cam attached, right? It's like, that specific point. I remember just thinking, if this was like made into a movie, it'd be the time where the narrator goes, so I went and found some journalists, right? And then you go to a B cam where it's just like someone with a hidden camera with you just sitting down, and journalists come and you're like, hello, let's be friends. And I was just like, pretty well. I could see that scene just playing out in my head.
I remember, like, when I was walking up to the hotel that night, I remember thinking, this is such a dumb idea. Like, this is potentially one of the dumbest ideas that I'm just gonna go insinuate myself into, like, some poor journalist that's like there to, cover the independence of a country. And I'm just going to be like, I'm Eric. I'm a third grade teacher. Can we be friends?
But you did.
No, I know. And if it wasn't for that, that changed my life so dramatically. Like, literally just shout out to Marcel. I actually just saw him in Sarajevo. So I started talking with these journalists, and they were like, "Oh yeah, book sounds interesting. If you're interested in unrecognized nations, you should get a load of Liberland." And I was like, "What's Liberland?" And then this Dutch journalist named Marcel, he was like, "Oh, it's the world's first libertarian micro nation that's based on cryptocurrencies, and it's on an empty island in the Balkans." And I was like, that didn't get me any closer to understanding what Liberland is. What? And he's like,
you piqued Chandra's curiosity already. He's like, what? There's like,
oh yeah. It's a wild area. So he was like, well, I'll just give you the president's contact information. And I was like, okay,
well, why not? Yeah.
This is the first you're hearing of it as well, I assume.
Oh yeah, I'd also never heard of cryptocurrencies at that point either. I didn't know a damn thing about Bitcoin other than my buddy Dave was like, these are cool, and I was like, whatever, Dave. And then I wish I listened.
See, my intro to cryptocurrency was I was doing exam. Chandra just again rocked up and crashed on my couch, and then he's like, here's a fire extinguisher, and I'm like, why? He's like, your entire garden shed is now a crypto mining rig. It occasionally overheats. So, fire extinguisher.
It probably won't burn down.
Literal exact words were that.
I've done the math, I think.
And also, you wouldn't be the first and last shed that burned down because of Bitcoin.
Well, the thing was, right, I came home and suddenly there was an electrician, and he's like, oh, just wrapping up. I'm like, wrapping up what? He's like, what? You now have double phase power going to the shed. I'm like, what? And then
for all the fire extinguisher, of course.
Yeah, and then
and it's like
next month my power bill was literally 10x what I was paying the month before.
Shit!
Yeah,
good
cryptocurrency
God.
is very Yeah, it's energy. It's planet friendly, everyone. It is totally green.
Mm-hmm.
It's going great.
The world.
It's like you imagine some conversation in Dubai, and it's like, this is the future of finance. Cut immediately to you like spraying your burning shed with a fire extinguisher. It's like, this is the future of finance.
The bigger problem was when the spiders started crawling into the non-windy spots.
No, then you also had my cat who would disappear, and then I would eventually realize the shed was warm. It was winter, so that's where my cat was going meow to the Bitcoin mine, which was like literally. I think one of those IKEA. He just got like an IKEA drawer, like those wired drawers.
Yep.
So there was just like the computer motherboards just stacked, right? With literal zip ties to hold it together.
Classic homebrew.
Yeah, with 2 box fans
Gotta
on
keep
one
it
side,
secure.
and my cat would go play hunt the spiders. So yeah, it was
an employee. Tax-deductible employee. It's all good.
You lose your cat in the crypto shed for like 2 hours, and she comes out being like, "We gotta catch this pump on XRP, man. I'm super bullish on EOS." Like, you idiot.
I was studying for like my final exam to become anesthetist anesthesiologist, right?
Yeah.
That's the text message I was getting from Chandra. He's like, hey, do you want to get in on this? And I'm like, no, dude, I want to pass. I just want to pass. I just want to finish this. I've got 1 exam left in me. Let me just pass. And he's like,
dude, so how is being
really cool.
poor? Sucks, Rafi. must really suck that. Do you still have your shed? That's the most important thing.
It's a historic shed. I mean, as long as it's a historic burn mark around where a shed once was.
There's just a crater, and it's like, did Peace Corps open up in Australia?
Who's the new recruit? Can I just say, just reading your book, you seem to have an uncanny ability to put the fear and like the fact that you're about to head into, like Trapoya and all these places that are a hotspot to say the least, right? Like, you put the fear away and you get the thing done. So what's this about karaoke and your fear of that?
Yeah, I think karaoke is just full of perverse incentives. I think that karaoke, the only reason, there's only 2 ways to do karaoke in my understanding. It's like, either you're so drunk and bad that you're going to get the community in that bar on your side, or you can absolutely, if you're the top 1%, you can absolutely slay at karaoke. I think that the win state for karaoke is so hard to hit that 99.9% of the time you're just submitting yourself to public embarrassment and ridicule. And so, yeah, my
like
problem,
karaoke game theory right there.
That's right. Yeah, that's my next book.
Karaoke from different countries, preferably stateless ones.
I've heard karaoke's a really legit big thing in like, is it Korea and Japan? Are they super into it?
Oh, like
Melbourne.
There's literally a friend of mine organizing pre-Taylor Swift karaoke for Taylor Swift songs before she comes and plays here in Melbourne. So that's literally like, there's an entire message thread about this happening right now that's muted, because yes, I'm with you. Karaoke, just anxiety provoking. I'm out.
There's no it's I don't know what would sober me up faster. It's like that or the bar catching fire. Like, I never want to. And then the other perverse incentive of it is just that, like, there's something about you desperately not wanting to do karaoke that immediately makes your friends be like, you know who has to do it?
You hadn't sung anything for a bit.
I've been once. And I was so grumpy. They were like, okay, you don't have to sing. I was like, oh, that's the thing. Pretend to be 80 years old.
I think that's pretend to be 80 years old is a life hack that I don't think a lot of people are embracing. I think that could work in a lot of different situations.
I think there was a point where I was literally feigning not being able to read the lyrics and making stuff up. And they're like, it's just there. It's in big letters. And I'm like, I can't see it. I'm 80.
I forgot my reading glasses.
All your doctor friends were like, he's having a stroke. He can't read.
Thankfully,
give him a jolt of anxiety. Make him sing.
Now, if we can mine crypto using karaoke, proof of rhythm, then we can finally make that blockchain revolution happen that I keep hearing so much about.
Yeah, don't encourage Chandra. Like literally, when we started the podcast, it was all crypto all the time, and now it's like. We started this season. We lasted a minute and 47 seconds before AI came up.
Look, man, I hate to be squarely on Team Chandra here, but that's like what I do for work now. Is I work in crypto. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's because of Liberland.
It's because of that. How did you go from there to? That seems like slightly random connections there.
Right. So I have to preface this with what I am gonna say is sounds insane. And
absolutely financial advice. You should invest your entire life savings.
No,
this is what you're hearing on random people saying on the internet. Please don't take us seriously.
No, 100% financial advice. That's what makes me different. I stand behind my financial advice. So I got the information from the president of Liberland, and I started like bothering him. Basically, I started emailing him just like randomly. Like whenever I had downtime, I was like, "Hey, it's me again. I'm writing a book about unrecognized nations. I know Marcel. Can I come over and hang out and see your country?" And eventually I heard back from him a couple months later. I was doing research in a place called Transnistria at the time. Transnistria is like this weird little slip of land between Moldova and Ukraine that is still kind of the Soviet Union. It's a really strange place. Read the book to find out more about Transnistria. And so somebody from Liberland got back to me and they're like, well, you can come learn more about us, I guess. You can come to our 30-year anniversary. And I was like, great. And they're like, yeah, you just need to make it to like northern Serbia in the next like 3 days. And I was like, fine.
I'm used to this.
Yeah, totally. So like 28 hours of...
Where's my rocket gun to ship me over?
I call it a Peace Corps airstrike. And they shoot me across to North Serbia. It's more just like uncomfortable buses and trains across Romania for 28 fucking hours. Sorry, you can still hear the rage in my voice because they never turned the lights off in that train car. So horrible.
They didn't want you to fall asleep. It's a long train ride. Otherwise, you can't miss your stop.
You can't miss your stop.
Sometimes I wonder if I actually died on that train from boredom, and this is all just an illusion caused by like my failing synapses. And so I got there, and then they're like, okay, well, we're not actually allowed to step foot on the island of Liberland, so we just kind of like hang out on houseboats near on the Danube River. And I was like, okay, so I went up and met some of like the first Liberlander in like a port town called Apatin in northern Serbia. And, this sort of shirtless Dutch guy is there, and he's like, oh, are you a Liberlander? And I was like, I don't think so. And he's like, well, come aboard. Let's change that. And so started talking with this guy, shout out to Yoshi. And he like was introducing me to what I didn't realize at the time was like, the tenets of crypto anarchy. And he's like, yeah, well, the fiat financial system, Chandra leaning in, the, fiat financial system is based off of like, debt, wage slavery and warfare. And I was like, yeah, man, fuck yeah. I'm so sick of the man. And what we're doing here at Liberland, an island that was declared as no man's land after the fall of Yugoslavia, and we're creating our sort of like crypto libertarian paradise on it. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome, but we're also on a houseboat right now, not there. And he's like, yeah, the Croatians won't let us step foot on it without arresting us. And I was like,
right,
cool,
as you do.
So they were like, okay, well, come to the conference tomorrow. And it turned out it was a cryptocurrency conference. I didn't know a dang thing about cryptocurrencies at this point. I was introduced to the Secretary of State of Liberland initially, and he was like not a shirtless Dutch guy. He was like this really like, posh Englishman. And I'm like, what are we doing here? He's like, oh, we're making a country. I'm like, you people are serious about this? And he's like, oh yeah, we're super serious about this. And he's like, come on the boats tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I'll go on the houseboats to go look at the island. So, pack 80 crypto nerds onto this sort of flotilla of boats of all sizes. Like some people were on dinghies, some people were on houseboats. I was on the houseboat because I was trying to find the president. I just got on the biggest boat and I figured he would be there, but I couldn't find him. And since it's a boat, there are limited options of where he could be because it's a boat.
Yeah. There's only so many places
right.
behind.
As a boat owner, you understand this. And I saw him get onto it and I was like, he's like, Batman, how did he get off of the boat? And then we're on this, they're floating down the Danube River. Meanwhile, Croatian police are sort of following us to make sure the crypto nerds don't get onto the island. And so it's a weird party-like atmosphere.
Island owned by Croatia? Why are they stopping you from getting on the island?
According to the Croatians, their problem is that they have they were in the midst of a legal battle at the time, and Liberland and Croatia have had many legal battles at this point. But at the time, they were basically saying, hey, you can't start a country on our border because it's an affront to our national sovereignty. And so we're not allowing any of you people to get on the island until this court case is solved. Liberlanders say technically they don't own it.
Yeah.
And that was then settled in court. So now, where we are in Liberland history now is that has been settled, and they've just gone, they're going to court again with Croatia. So this is a constant thing with them. But I was...
So currently it really is a stateless idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, they're building now. Or at least they were until the Croatians came in and bulldozed their settlement.
Oh, that's not ideal.
Yeah, that just happened. I think that happened 6 months ago.
Huh.
Yeah. So it's I stay abreast of all the Liberland news. So I was just trying to meet the president, and then I noticed that he was on a jet ski that was whizzing around all of the boats, and he was sort of tying it up and then getting off and giving some presidential speech and then getting on the jet ski again and riding around. And so I was like, I have to meet the president and I have to get on the jet ski. That sounds awesome. So I went to the side of the boat and I was just waving at him. And fortunately, the foreign secretary, a guy named Tom, was like, you want to get on the jet ski? And I was like, yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah. And Tom was just this random American dude who works in tech and is foreign secretary of Liberland. And so he waved the president Vitjalika down and got on the back of the jet ski, and I'm holding on to the president of Liberland, and I'm like, hey, I'm Eric, because it's loud, because it's a jet ski. And so
perfect place to do a podcast.
Absolutely. So we're just bouncing through the waves, and I'm holding the president of Liberland, and he knew who I was from my many emails. And I asked him what advice he would give to anybody who wanted to start a country, because he was the only person I had met after sort of almost a year of living in unrecognized countries that had actually started a country. And he's like, well, everybody should start their own country. And then he hit like a sick 180 and like water went everywhere and the Croatian police were like shaking their fists. And I was like, oh, that's like so dope. Like, and my bar for political leadership is so low. All you need to do is like a 180. And I'm like, whoa, I vote for you. And so I got back on the boat, the houseboat, and the foreign secretary, Tom, was like, oh, so like, where's the next stop on your journey? And I was like, oh, Somaliland. And he's like, we've got a embassy there. And I was like, that's weird. What? And he's like, yeah.
Where's Somaliland?
So it's the northern portion of Somalia. So Somalia is this kind of like dagger shape that goes into the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea, those two together. So
it's where sailing boats stay away from.
Yeah, I would recommend not hanging out there. So Somaliland is its own unrecognized nation. There's a couple of different like independence movements throughout what we know as Somalia. But actually Somaliland is going to become a big deal, I think, in the next probably like year. There's some rumblings.
You heard it here first.
That's right, at the randInt podcast. For more geopolitical news, smash like and subscribe.
Get 20% off the Geopolitical newspaper.
That's right.
Newsletter.
We're gonna have to do like a news episode where you're the geopolitical correspondent.
A bunch of people being mean to each other.
Same as always. More people being different mean.
So he was like, do you want to stay at the embassy? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I have like $0 and I don't want to spend that on a safe hotel in Somaliland, because like the safest hotel in the area is like $150 a night. It's pretty rough. And he's like, yeah, you can stay at our embassy. And then I was like, oh, sweet. And so waited until basically I had like 3 days until I was going to the capital, which is called Hargeisa. And I just didn't hear from anybody at Liberland. And I was like, this is not the best, because I have a ticket to northern Somalia and I'm just like, I just show up and I'm like, I'm here for 6 weeks.
I'll get in that car.
Same driver from Beirut. Like, don't I know you?
Okay, dude. Stop getting in cars.
So, I like, I'm texting the president and he's like, what's your number? And I'm like, okay, I give him my number. He calls me and I'm like, hello, Mr. President. And he said, well, I don't know if this messes with your book, but I'm sorry, like we lost our ambassador to Somaliland. And I was like, oh no, like that means that like I'm going to be like homeless in Hargeisa, and that's not a great situation for me to be in, especially with only like $300 to my name. And then he was like, so no, the thing that like, I don't know if it'll like mess up your book is like, would you want to do that? Like, would you want to do that? And I was like, what exactly? And he's like, do you want to be the ambassador from Liberland to Somaliland? And I was like, can I stay at the embassy? He said, oh, yeah, of course you can stay at the embassy. I was like, okay, yeah, no, totally. I'll be your ambassador, whatever. What do I have to do? And he's like, well, you have to establish diplomatic relations with the government of Hargeisa and Somaliland. And I was like, totally, I can do that. And then he said,
brand ambassador.
Brand ambassador. That's why they're all wearing Nikes. And so then he was like, and then you also have to buy furniture for the embassy because there's nothing in there. But we put a mattress in there for you so you can sleep in there. And I was like, great, I can do those two things.
Make that work.
So I went off to Hargeisa and I was working. So I met the vice president of Somaliland. If anybody wants to see photos of this, you can see my Instagram. It's it'll be very clear which photo I am not Somali in. It's super. You'll know which one I am.
We'll put your Instagram links on the show notes, but what is it? Just for
it's E and then my last name and at Instagram.
Perfect.
I was doing that. looking at buying furniture and also doing various other things in Somaliland, learning about the area. And then a cyclone blew through that kind of knocked out communications. Cyclone Sagar blew through, and I had no connection with the folks at Liberland anymore. And then when it came back on, I was talking with the Secretary of State, and he was like, "Oh, well, this, we're glad you're safe, but this is also really great for our relations with Somaliland because we're going to extend diplomatic aid because we're the only ones with a team on the ground right now." I was like, "Okay, cool. Who's the team?" And then they're like, "You."
Damn, I didn't see that one coming.
there's no I. There's no I in team, and there's only I in this empty mansion in Somaliland. And so with some of the locals that I was working with, we were able to coordinate an aid delivery of 7 tons of food using Bitcoin out to the area affected by Cyclone Sagar. And so after that, like, I had some contacts in the crypto space, but also like I didn't have, yet again, this is a common theme in my life. I had no job and I had no money, so I just needed a new job and money. And so a couple crypto dudes just like would randomly knock on my door and be like, "Hey, can you write about X, Y, and Z?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I can write about anything because I'm that poor." And so yeah, now I work in crypto, doing like documentaries and media and writing about crypto stuff.
Oh, wow. So why are you in Albania then and not Liberland?
Well, there's nothing but rubble in Liberland because the Croatians bulldozed it.
Yeah, you just said.
Yeah. No, I mean, Liberland was I still have a lot of respect and affection for the good people of Liberland. But I abdicated my position as their ambassador to Somaliland. I did consider it like staying on as the ambassador. But yeah, you'll have to read the book for some of the spicier experiences in Somaliland that left me.
So
it's supposed to be
scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay. It because you can imagine.
Yeah.
And, like, I've stayed in like a hotel room like that in Morocco. So and
oh, I know which hotel room you're talking about. Yeah, dude.
So yeah. So just for those who've made it to this point in the podcast, what is the book called, and how would you summarize it? Yeah.
It's called "You Are Not Here: Travels Through Countries That Don't Exist," and yeah, it's a travel log about trying to find out what a country is by living in countries that don't exist. And so the countries that I ended up going through in those years was Kurdistan, Kosovo, Transnistria, Liberland, and then Somaliland. So the end was Somaliland, and so through no brilliance and just like me being a just bumbling my way through the world, I ended up going from being a 3rd grade teacher in Iraqi Kurdistan to being the ambassador from one stateless country to another.
That is.
I was going to say, you seem to end up in a lot of interesting situations on a fairly regular basis.
It's been pretty calm recently. I've mostly been like, "Oh, we need to get these press releases out." So
what's that been, like 1, maybe 2 weeks of that?
Yeah, honestly, I'm
and then you'll be off.
Yeah, I need to.
Do you have any advice for like anybody else who's like, "Well, that's a pretty random," he seems to have a very consistent track record of ending up in random places.
Yeah,
and what would you suggest for other people? Like, I wish I can do that.
If they want to, I mean, I think that I sort of define travel a little bit differently than maybe other people do, where I think that everybody kind of needs to lower their bar on what they think travel really is, and I just define it by any time that you're outside of your comfort zone, and you're sort of like open to whatever experience is in front of you. I think more often than not, when people are, and I'll say that this is a bit of an American disease, because it is more difficult for folks from the States to travel internationally. and I think only like isn't like a third or 2/3 of Americans even have passports. You know, when they go, they'll go to Paris and be like, well, I've always wanted to get a photo of myself drinking espresso in front of the Eiffel Tower. And it's like, okay, cool, but like you also like you're diagnosing the experience that you want to have before you even go there. And like the real good stuff happens at the point that you realize that you like that your expectations are false. Your expectations are always false, and that you should start having the trip that you're actually having, and that begins at the point that you realize that whatever you had built up in your mind is just what you had built up in your mind, and what's in front of you is probably a more interesting, better thing. Because as far as like travel is concerned, people don't actually want that complicated of a thing. Like, you know, people want good food, nice people, cool music, good things to look at, and walking streets. Like that's, you can get those everywhere. And if by going a little bit off of the beaten path, then you find that the bubble between like you as somebody who's traveling through an area and the people who actually live there is so much more permeable. And you'll also find that like, you know, the you know, kindest and most genteel people in the world are not living in Los Angeles, California, or New York. They're I know some pretty nice people in LA.
No. What I was about to say is that we actually did a travel episode of like last season.
Oh,
and
sweet.
It was about like, you know, how like we have slightly different methodologies, but we do exactly what you say. Like I went to Greenland. Did I look up Greenland? No, I know nothing about North.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about Ilulissat. I figured it out when I got there because I totally agree with you, right? Did I end up becoming an ambassador to Somaliland? No. So, like, whilst I totally agree, but there's like a little sprinkling of secret sauce there. Like, I
totally agree. Yeah. I think that part of it too is, I mean, a lot of the if I have any success, the secret to it is having no backup plan.
Fair enough.
Because literally, you know, I was sitting there in my tiny apartment in Erbil, and I was like, in 2 days, a historical event is going to happen. I have no access. Like, I didn't come here to teach third grade. I came here to experience the beginning of a country. So, like, I don't have any way to gain access to this unless I get out of my comfort zone and you know, make friends with some Dutch journalists. I didn't have the ability to be like, nah, I don't want to be the ambassador to Somaliland, because I literally had no other place to stay. So like, and this is also kind of
a hard place.
Absolutely. Like it also relates to like the mountain climbing that I've done too. It's like mountain climbing is great because like there's just no backup plan. Like you either, you know, deal with whatever's going on mentally so that you can move yourself physically, or, you know, you take a helicopter for $5,000 down the mountain. So it's like, this is the only way through, or the only way forward is
sickness.
Yeah, I feel great right now. Slurring your words.
Have you read a book called A Million Miles in 1,000 Years? Donald Miller.
No, that's a cool title though. I know Donald. I've heard of Donald Miller before.
So basically, it's a book I read last year, and I found it I'm about a third of the way through your book, but his book was literally about like he got this deal to make a movie about his life, essentially, right?
Tight.
And then he was basically just went and like he was like, people are going to be coming, going to be following me around. My life's not that interesting. And so he set out, and the book's about how he went around crafting an interesting life, right?
Huh.
And in a way, right, what you're doing is exactly what he's describing, because his thing ultimately comes down to this, and I suppose to an extent where the podcast also goes, which is like, what are those random moments that are going to shape you? And are you intentionally staying away from them or leaning into them, right?
Something that I think about on a consistent basis like that, because like there's this which I feel is this sort of like what I call like Californian spirituality of Californian spiritual maxim. Everything happens for a reason, which is this sort of like thought canceling cliche of like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't necessarily help me emotionally, and I just like essentially akin to saying, just don't think about it, it'll be fine. And so like I've always thought that's kind of an annoying thing to say, because at least in my experience, you never know the random thing that's actually going to be important, but you also forget the things that are totally unimportant. You know, I'm sure that somebody had a sandwich that changed their lives, but the millions of other sandwiches that they ate did not change their life, and therefore they don't remember them. There's this
on that note. Did you have a sandwich that changed your life?
Well, no, but Heigl,
maybe you did and you just can't remember it.
It's true. Heigl talks about this, and he has, this is my like favorite philosophy quote that I would trot out if I went to fancy cocktail parties. But he says something along the lines of, you know, the owl of Minerva opens its wings only at midnight, and the idea is that the owl of Minerva is like the arbiter of wisdom, and opening the wings is you gaining understanding, but only at midnight is the point at which like you can understand the past only by noticing it in the present, right? So I can stitch together all of these things that were like critical moments from you know, doing this super edgy punk rock theater thing in my performing arts college to ending up being the ambassador of Liberland. But like I can only make sense of them in retrospect. And the point at which you get to you know, continually just depart on these really interesting adventures is having the assumption that random interaction is actually sort of like a green flag telling you that like lean into it, keep going. Yeah, get weird.
It seems like if I had to like put a little thread through, like, I mean, you know, this podcast has been amazing because it's just like bounced to so many different things so far, right?
The Red Sea.
Like, it didn't, yeah, Red Sea. Like, yeah, I
Stamps.com.
had no idea about it. Yeah, we've gotten so many more sponsors than I ever knew.
Yeah, that's why people bring me on.
But I think one of the threads that seems to come through is the fact that there's this genuine curiosity about experiencing something firsthand, right? Like, as in, you're not someone who's happy to read about it in a book. It's like, no, I want to go there and be that person. And this genuine, like, it seems like for everything you've said so far, right? The other thing that seems to drive you is this strong desire to kind of like storyteller, but like the journalistic version, which is like, there's people over there, they have interesting stories, I want to share them. Would that be a kind of a good summary to kind of, or is there some other secret source in there as well? Yeah.
Totally. No, well, I think that like the way, like I think in Stephen King's On Writing, it's a great book about writing in general, and he talks about like how the first draft is telling the story to yourself. And then the second draft and third draft are about like telling the story to somebody else. Like it's like first draft is closed door, I'm just trying to work out the story on my own. And second and third draft, those are open door. I'm trying to like make it shine and make it understandable for you. And I think that the way that I interpret a lot of geopolitical events, a lot of the history that we're all living through, is through like trying to tell these stories to myself and trying to explain them to myself through interactions with individuals. You know, I'm really blessed at this point in my life that anytime something happens in the world, I have somebody who's a friend in the area that I can, you know, drop them a line and be like, you know, how are you? Is everything going well there? Or like what exactly is happening? And I think that there's a lot of reticence to really engage with folks on the ground everywhere, because it's like it's so much more comfortable to just like have our political understanding fed to us by the rage boxes in our pockets.
I mean, it's the whole armchair commentary phenomena, right? Like, as in, because you've seen the 3 things, that makes you the expert. And like, I mean, we're all kind of guilty of it to an extent, but I'm just like inspired, also kind of in awe that you've managed to pull off that many random sequences in a row to weave together what is like, I mean, like I said, a third of the way through the book, but I'm hooked. I actually, like, I was over at my parents' place today, right? Like, just before this, I was over there, and I got bored for like 5 minutes because my mom was telling some same story to my wife that I've read about 1,000 times. And, instinctively, I normally will start flicking into Instagram and starting to do that. But I actually loaded up Kindle, and I was like, no, I actually want to get to the end of this chapter.
Hell so, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, thank you for, like, such an engaging read.
I don't... this is an absolute incredible compliment for an author, but I'm also just imagining like your mother and wife and you just like bringing up a book.
that is exactly
like this is this is the compliment we all
in front of me.
Yeah,
I literally shifted my body 90 degrees, so there was no illusions that I was not paying attention to them, and the phone was out. And the book was on.
So that's the reason that I write is to just cause tension in other people's families.
There was no tension. They realized that they were getting the literal cold shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, I will. I am sort of like on the hunt right now for some other kind of journey to document. I don't actually have one. I feel very like. Alexander wept for there were no more kingdoms to conquer.
I think I'm like jump onto Chandra's boat. I mean, just
hell yeah, let's do it.
He usually needs yeah.
I've been meaning to get on a boat at some point. I know a guy. I know a fisherman in Norway that I could probably hop on his, but yours sounds a lot nicer.
He's always looking for crew, and let's just say one of the other podcasts was him
on Facebook as hey, he wants to come sailing if you're interesting or can sail, one of the two.
Done.
Hey,
what's up?
Yeah, so like one of our podcasts was done whilst he was trying to steer the boat away from a storm. So every so often you see a gust of wind is going, just a second, about to crash into something, and we're good. Let's continue. What were we talking about?
And meanwhile, your guest is like, yeah, I mean, I've been mining Raven coin for a while, but I think they're going to brick the ant miners, so...
I'm actually just doubling the solar and the lithium bank right now. So.
Oh, wow. I mean, I think at 2 hours we've covered... I mean, I feel like we could keep talking for another few hours at this stage.
I'm always happy to come back on and really do a deep dive on my picks in crypto. No, God, don't do it. Don't do it.
I just thought we'd just both take some turns at some random questions that we came up with just to see your thoughts on some random topics. Chandra, I feel like this should be your end of the spectrum.
Yes, because random topics are my specialty.
Can't wait for this.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I wouldn't. You start with your random one because I had a couple of other questions.
Oh, okay. All right. So one of the ones was, okay, you have to create a time capsule of this era right now.
Shit.
Right? What are the 3 items you would put in there? And I just I saw this on a list and I was like, you know what? Of all the people to ask it through, you've been to so many places that I'm really curious what you'd put into a time capsule.
God, that's hard. Man, like I feel like the way that a lot of people would go with it is like, well, you got to put an iPhone in, but like if you send that to the future,
Android?
It's like some sort of smartphone is going to be bricked by the time that it gets to the future, right?
That'd be awesome because you'd then have the scientists looking at it going, this metal slab was used by the ancients to start fires. They used to rub them together or some totally inaccurate thing. But
sometimes I think that like maybe archaeologists are just lazy and they're just like, that was used for worship. Or maybe they're like actual scientists and I'm just hating for no reason. Because it seems like everything was used for worship. Okay, okay. Yeah, or fire. So I think I would go with... Dude, and it's like, because I'm not going to know when it actually...
100 years.
So let's do 100 years. It'll be open.
Yeah,
I would go with a one of those like atomically powered timepieces. The ones that just like so like a watch that like continues no matter what.
You mean like Jeff Bezos's mountain clock?
Dude, honestly, people hate on the mountain clock, but I'm so pro mountain clock. I am the most bullish on mountain clock.
For those who haven't heard, I will put the link in there. There is literally a mountainside that's now a gravity-based clock. So as long as gravity exists.
That was one of those things where I'm like, good job, billionaire. That's exactly the kind of crackpot shit that you should be doing.
What the world needed.
All right, atomic clock. But why atomic clock?
Well, so I think that if you... I think that presuming that society is going to be very different, obviously, if we haven't blown ourselves up. So if we haven't blown ourselves up, I think that it would be a really good indicator of the things that we value, because I think that horology, or the study of time, is probably like the basis of most of society, right? And you even have like proto clock ways of doing this. Like even before sundials, it was like looking at astrology. You always need to have like some assumption of like what the future holds for you. And because of that, like you have to have some understanding of the passage of time. So a future society that is functioning could understand a lot about us by a watch, right? And also that like, they could figure out like what our wrist size were. Potentially, if it was worn, they could take DNA off of it, and maybe you'd live again or something like that. Or maybe they just like take it from the leather and then make a cow.
Like, man, these
a cow-human hybrid.
Yeah. But if society has collapsed, then you're giving the gift of a timepiece through which that they can sort of like reverse engineer.
And also collapse.
Yeah, and then collapse eventually.
That is a really good answer, I gotta say.
A watch, I would do. Oh man,
Pokemon trading card, clearly, because Pokemon is still going to be around in 100 years.
It's crazy you said that, because I kept thinking about Pokemon. But then
one of the guests that's coming on is one of the top players in Singapore, who's coming on in the next few weeks.
No way. I have so many questions about his lifestyle.
So I literally was talking to him just before, because he was at a tournament today, and I'm like, "Did you win? Did you win? Did you win?" And he's like, "I got some points." But anyway, I
have problems with the Pokemon Corporation, because I was under the impression that I had to catch them all, and then they moved the fucking goalpost on me, and I was like 151. That was our agreement, and now there's like 1 million. How dare you? I'm just looking at my Diglets, being like, "Sorry, I'm out. I'm done."
If you haven't yet, have you played Pal World? I haven't yet.
No, but I keep hearing about it. About it.
Well, I'll leave that. But anyway, what are the other two things you'd put in?
Oh, okay. So another one would be I would. Oh, okay. This might be too esoteric, but I would put in there's a an item. I think it's kept in France, but it's like the atomic measure of
the SI unit
of the kilogram, right? Yeah. So like I'd put the kilogram, like the underscore. Yes, I know. And then they have to make like a new the kilogram. No, I would do kilogram. It's so much easier. Like it's just so much easier for the
okay.
Yeah. Because
that's
then you
cool.
have you've got time, you've got weights, you can extrapolate weights and measures from it. It also imparts an understanding that previous society had this sort of like deep understanding of not only passage of time but weights and measures. So maybe we can start getting some respect around the future. And then I think, I feel, you know what? Throw a dictionary in there.
A dictionary?
I'd have to do English dictionary. Because I think that, like, if you, some would say, maybe a holy book or something, but I think, I'd go with the dictionary. Because then at least
they need to know we've discovered doom scrolling. We're at that level of society.
Yeah. Oh man. And actually that would be really interesting too, because, presuming they could read the language, they would be able to find out like what the most recently added words were. So like, I'm old enough to remember when getting jiggy with it was added to the dictionary. And so that's a very different future generation.
Just a series of dictionaries.
It's just yeah.
Yeah. And we had no idea.
Say that, I just hear Will Smith,
Like previous to that, we had no idea what we were doing. And then as it turned out, we were getting jiggy with it the entire time.
We just didn't know it.
No, we had no idea what the word for it was. Of course not. Like these people in the future.
Well, they will discover if they have forgotten what the terms were.
All of them are just like, like
what?
Full
How
of...
did we get here?
They're just like in nuclear, like radioactive rags, like trying to find tins of beans, and then they were like, jiggy.
And a kilogram.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of screwing these people over. Not any canned food? Nope.
None of these are helping me.
Figure it out, guys.
I've got one for you, which is from what we talked about very briefly. But what's your favorite use of a lava lamp?
Oh, God. God, that could go so many ways.
Top three. That's fine.
Top three. Well, so the thing that I had heard, because we started out talking about like randomness, and you guys seem like the kind of nerds that are like that I can be like, yeah, but is anything truly random? So I was doing a pretty shallow dive into the like the concept of randomness and randomization, and I think for some reason. And I don't know why on the back end, why it's necessary, but like randomization is necessary for like security from the company Cloudflare. And from what I understand, they use like the position of the like stuff in lava lamps to like create their randomization mechanism that allows them to like generate security, which is by far my favorite use of the lava lamp.
Definitely the best.
Wait. That is worthy. That is worthy.
Thank you.
Because, before that, they have this one radio telescope pointed to background cosmic radiation. And the level of the background cosmic radiation multiplied by X number, it was the true random, or the most random we could get to.
Is that what it is?
That was the step prior. I don't know if the lava lamp, because the thing
I did have a little sneak peek. Cloudflare has 100 lava lamps arranged on a wall, and a camera takes photos at regular intervals.
Yep.
And sends it to Cloudflare servers.
Yep.
And those pixel values are the randomness. Because,
what?
Like I said, generating true random is difficult.
Like, what are you doing?
I do like how somebody was like, maybe we can use a telescope pointed into the deeps of space and use radiation.
Meanwhile, somebody's just...
Lava lamp's pretty weird every day. Like, I swear, man.
Somebody bursts through the strings of beads and is like, I've got it! The beads are just swinging. It's hard to burst into a room.
A little bit. I feel like there should be some beads in the room with lava lamps.
You never see them on their own.
Wow. that has been one of the this has been one of my favorite chats of the randInt podcast, just
Hell
because
yeah.
of the true breadth of what we covered. Would you have any sort of parting advice or comments for the listeners of this show?
Oh man, I usually stay away from advising people of anything, because you know, you don't want this life. But
I don't know. I think some would actually listen to it. I can think of one person who's very much like, I'm bored of this life. I was literally talking to her the other day, and she's like, yeah, I want to do something different. I'm like, this is the podcast for you.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I think that, you know, the like I said, I think that a lot of what people think that they want from these adventures are pretty accessible to everybody. And it starts out with you know, finding something that's just vaguely on the outside of your comfort zone but totally achievable. There's a wonderful book, actually he's by an Australian guy, called Beau Miles, Beau Miles, Miles.
Okay.
I would recommend that she read his book. He's a total inspiration. So he wrote a book called The Backyard Adventurer. And basically he did a series of like challenges that are sort of organized around something that he's personally exploring. So he was trying to talk about, like, you know, the environment and infrastructure. And the way that he did that was he decided to run, I think it was like 90K to his work. And he drives that, you know, every day. But like he decided to run from his home to his work and then like urban forage for, like, you know, food and money along the way. And then he used that as like this great way of talking about like industrialization and the environment, and also he was like, you know, and then once you do something like this, you realize that your surroundings and the things that you see every single day are never going to look the same to you. Like years ago, I did a cycling trip through all of southern Albania and with a buddy of mine, and so we ran, I think it was like 1,000 kilometers along the country or along the border. And it's like, it's such a different way of seeing a street that you would just pass by while listening to a podcast and never think about it, when you have to, like, you know, chug up it using your legs. And so like, that's a totally accessible adventure. And having a conversation with a stranger, saying, you know, safely saying yes to going someplace that you wouldn't normally go.
Getting into a van that has
I
no
was gonna
engine handles.
do not recommend. I'm very, I don't get into strange cars anymore.
Strange cars with door handles on the inside only.
Yeah. You got to make sure.
More sensible now.
Got to make sure that's.
Let me check. There is a door handle. Don't have to check if it's functional, but I'll get in.
Child locks. Booking themselves like a 48-hour trip or a 72-hour trip in like a weekend, like at least once every other month. Like, buy the cheapest plane ticket that you can to a city you've never been to, spend 72 hours there, and I promise, like, some things will occur.
Yeah, no, that's actually really good advice. Like, I mean, I spent a year and a half locuming, like, in between my day job, and part of the reason was Alex. That's where I met Alex.
Oh, okay.
Because he used to hook me up with these jobs.
Yeah.
So he'd ring me up, going, "Raf, are you ready to pack your bags? There's a flight that leaves in an hour. You're going to so and so place." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I just rock up. It'd be some like one hospital I was in. We finished. They were like turning off the lights, right? And I was like, "Oh, where do I go to stay?" And it turns out, and that there was this old hospital next to it. And the entire reason was A, it was old, and B, it had a rumor that was haunted, so no one wanted to work there. So it was like, you know,
oh god,
random, yeah. You know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, thankfully, Alex flew me back that night, so I didn't
super
have
cool.
To stay anywhere.
Super cool.
But yeah, it's I will totally agree with the fact that I've seen parts of the world, like of Australia anyway, that would never have happened had I not done that, and to fill it, bring it around full randInt style, that's literally the only reason I know Alex, which is the only reason you're on this podcast right now. Like, you know.
Well, also, like, if you don't have any expectations of something because you don't know that much about it, by definition, it can't suck. Like, unless the place is on fire, which rarely it is.
Great photo opportunity in that case.
It is. Like, what a great trip to that open blaze. But you know, if you don't have any expectations of a place, it's very hard for those expectations to not be met by that place. Like, in the next little bit, I really want to go to a place called Gdansk in Poland. I know little bits about Gdansk just because, like, it's been a part of, like, different countries over the years. But I know zero about it, and I'm like, I'm setting myself up to be pleasantly surprised because, like, it's just, you know, a functioning place that'll probably be interesting.
I'll add one random question now that you brought it up. Has any place disappointed you?
God, I feel bad saying this, but, like, the United States.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I think that not that I'm like I you know, I like being American and I like America and stuff like that. But I sometimes when I hear about, like, people traveling to Los Angeles from Albania or whatever, it's such a difficult city for tourists to go through because it requires a car. It requires a lot of money. It requires really complicated parking. It's not the kind of city that you can just like you know, go find the tallest thing at the center and suddenly you know where everything is. And it's, you know, it's also, like, expensive and oftentimes pretty dirty. So it's like since I've had so many incredible travel experiences in various parts of the world, including places like Erbil, including places like, you know, that people would assume are difficult or dangerous to travel to, I want the same thing to be the case for where I'm from. But I also understand that that's not actually the case with where I'm from. Like, it's a little bit harder it's harder to move around. People aren't as welcoming, certainly, as the people here in Albania. But yeah, I mean, I like some American cities a lot. I find them difficult to move around and you know, hope that they're ingratiating. Yeah, I know, right?
I'm moving to Palo Alto later this year for a few months, and
no
first
way.
bit of advice I got was, yeah, you need a car. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna do a Chandra and buy a bike. And they're like, oh, yeah, I suppose that would work.
Around.
I was just in Palo Alto, and they have that little city center, and that was fine. That was the most expensive Whole Foods I have ever been to. Holy shit!
Don't. Let's not do foreshadowing because I still have functioning kidneys. I don't know if they'll be still there when I'm back.
Probably not. Yeah, you're gonna have to sell at least one or two. Listen, if you need a guy to fence those kidneys for you, I got some connections over here. So
I'll just stop by Albania on route.
Yeah, real quick. Drop off a kidney. Totally.
Eric, this has been such an awesome chat. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, man.
Any last words, Chandra, or you?
I look forward to seeing you in Albania.
Hell yeah, yeah! Please do come through. It'd be awesome. Or I can come down to Greece too. It's not very far. It's like a 45-minute flight.
Sweet. We'll get you up.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Go buy my book. Follow me on Instagram.
We'll
Instagram
put all those links down below.
Yeah, and I also have. I don't talk about it much. But I have a speculative fiction podcast that I've written too. So if you like science fiction and horror stories, that's also out there, and I'll send you guys the link to that.
One? Oh, okay.
If
you send it through, I'll add it all to the show notes. Thank you again. So, and hey, if you
use the special promo code randInt, you can buy his book for 20% more expensive.
That's right,
because you appreciate it that much more.
So it's the world's first pro count instead of a discount.
Exactly.
You actually
that'd be something I would. You should so add that into your website if you have
What's the future? It became $40. This is terrible.
Thank you again, and for all the listeners, do like and subscribe if you like these kind of random chats, and we're gonna have to have you back at some point again.
Oh, anytime.
I feel like we've only covered like half the story so far, and there's obviously Albania and crypto for episode 2.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm stoked.
All right, thank you again.
You bet, guys.
We will see you in the next episode.
Great to meet you, and I'll leave the thing open so that it uploads.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks.
Later,
All right.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks so much. This is super fun.